Hello, just seeing as we're going live. It is today's Lunch and Learn. So I've just started a bit later at 12:33. So hopefully you'll be able to join. Just going to do the usual patter as we just make sure everything's going well and stepping in and everything like that. So making sure we are all live. Today, I'm talking about difficult conversations and what that looks like and what that feels like. It's it's a really strange one, isn't it? Because actually, difficult conversations are an essential part of life, not just in business, not just in your work and day to day, and leading people, managing people, in creating progress in your work, but actually in terms of your day-to-day life. We cannot avoid a difficult conversation. Now, there are certain people that charge head first into a difficult conversation and they get energized by that. And in fact, I would actually even venture that sometimes I love to challenge. I like to explore and hypothesize about reasons. And some people can find that slightly uncomfortable at times. And they'll say, why you, do you dislike this? Or they'll interpret it in a negative way, when actually I just want to really find out if this is really how we feel about a situation or if it's the best way forward. So being self-aware has been really important about how that makes people feel. What kind of difficult conversations can come up? Well, you will know all too well about if you're approaching what's deemed as a difficult conversation. So something might be if you're having to really approach someone on their behavior or even on the quality of their work, or if something has been delayed. It could be approaching someone because you have maybe you feel responsible for something. So if a project has been delayed, or if you feel that you're going to share news with them that's going to make them unhappy, if they're not going to like something. So if you work with clients, it could be that you're approaching a price increase, or you're chasing money, always about money. It's a very emotive subject. So of course, because I work usually with all you wonderful people in finance and also tech, money can be actually hugely emotive. It's very emotional subject. But the other types of situations can be about performance and how someone is showing up. It can be approaching something that is it generally makes us uncomfortable. So here's how I've defined it. I've actually got my notes here, so forgive me if you can hear the rustle of papers, but I wanted to make sure I got this really spot on because it is a really big subject. And usually having these conversations, it makes us feel really negative, really uncomfortable, and it can really hold up progress. It means that we end up procrastinating or avoiding, and it doesn't lead to good things. So learning how to manage a difficult conversation can be really powerful. So what I broke this down to is into two ways. So one is an I feel. When we approach a difficult conversation, we end up thinking, oh, I feel bad about having this conversation. I feel awkward about having this conversation. I feel angry. And I'm really wanting to be, I've got so much anger that actually I need to be more effective with how I respond to this situation because I'm feeling so angry and so annoyed. It could be that you are feeling really uncomfortable about how they feel and what they might bring to the situation. Will they be angry at you? Will they feel uncomfortable at you? Look, the last year there's been so much in terms of it's been an emotive year. It's been an emotive 2 years. We're dealing with a lot. Actually, I'm gonna be really honest with you. Right now, I am recording this live from my home, in my home office rather than my actual office, because we're having to quarantine at the moment. So it's a bit of a difficult situation ourselves, and we're always having to deal with that. So anyway, emotions are really powerful. So first of all, it's about the I feel. But the second thing is actually it's what I want them to know. What do we need to actually achieve from this conversation? Because there is something that needs to be achieved. Now, I talked about the title of this video, this live, is really about what are the 3 ways that we approach conflict, and what are they? And I've actually got an image that I'm going to share with you down below. I'll do it after the section. Effectively, what happens is that we want to go through conflict in a certain way. There are 3 ways people do this, and I want you to think about which way you do this. How do you approach it? So first of all, conflict, number 1, the first way is, as I mentioned before, there are some people that just go straight through it. They manage those difficult conversations, those conflicting conversations, by going, let's dive straight in there. And that can have great results a lot of the time, but actually, if you've got certain, depending on the situation, of course, as always, depending on the person, as always, it can almost feel like we just went straight through. We didn't deal with any of the issues. We haven't made anyone really buy into what's happening here. And actually, there are going to be huge repercussions afterwards. So something to consider. Number 2, the way that we deal with conflicting or difficult conversations is by going around the conflict. And this can be I think this is actually the biggest one, going around it and not dealing with the conflict that lies in the middle of that difficult conversation, because we're avoiding being uncomfortable, we're avoiding the real issue, we're avoiding what the problem is. And what you're going to do is you're just kicking that can down the road, and it's going to get to be a bigger, more difficult conversation later on. And this is classic avoidance, classic people pleasing. If you're a people pleaser, this is probably your go-to in terms of, I don't want to deal with this right now. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I really want them to like me. And I fear also that fear of, what if they think I'm no good? What if they threaten what I know about me? And if you get energized by relationships and how people feel about you, then you really do feel it. You really do feel that internally. So going around can be a real go-to behavior, but it's not going to do you any favors. And it certainly doesn't help your organization, the company, the project, whatever, and the person at the other end of it as well. So that's something to think about. Number three is what I call a wiggle route. So we've got conflict right here, and we've got to just navigate. It's a bit like going skiing down a ski slope. You've got to do your turns, and you have to craft your way quite expertly through the conversation. And that brings me nicely to thinking about, you're still going to a destination with these difficult conversations, whether it's, why were you late? Why aren't you showing up in your business? We haven't delivered this. What are we going to do about it? Or your behavior isn't appropriate. Any of those kind of scenarios. At the end of the conversation, you've got to effectively navigate your way through. Now, I want you to think about what your go-to is, and please do message me, either put it in the comments below or privately. Do message me with what you would, which you think your go-to is at the moment. And I want you to ask yourself, is that really helping you? Ask yourself, really, how do I feel about approaching this difficult conversation? Am I charging straight through it? Am I going around it, or am I wiggling through? And now I want you to think, which is being effective? Is this helping me? Is this helping the other person? And is this helping the purpose of the conversation? So these are the things I want you to consider. How do you navigate around conflict? How do you get through a difficult conversation? And does it help you? How can this help you to be more aware of how you approach the conversation? Now, I've got a few techniques and tips that I can share with you in terms of helping yourself, but I'd love to know a little bit more about what it is that you struggle with, because this can be deeply personal as well. So, if you do have anything that you'd like to get in touch about, then please feel free to DM me and I'll send you some tips as well, and I'll send you some help. Effectively, I need to know a bit more about what happens to you. So, what's happening in that I feel stage? Are you feeling awkward? Are you feeling angry? What are you struggling with at that beginning? Are you struggling with the feeling of what if they're cross at me? Are you struggling with conflict internally? Are you struggling with the thought that this might, what if I'm actually no good, and that threatens my kind of belief about my professional skills? Because all of this does happen, and I've worked with clients on this a lot of the time, and that can be, this leads to greater things. It leads to greater issues with self-confidence, about putting yourself out there, at speaking up in meetings, about being visible in what you do, because of being afraid of that conflict and how you naturally navigate through conflicts. But we can think of strategies and ideas to help you with that. So if you have a problem, just get in touch. Send me a message. Put a message down below. I'll get in touch, or DM me. You can also email me directly at alex@speakingambition.com. And I'd love to hear. What I'll do is I'll ping you back just a couple of ideas that you can use right here today. And then we'll see if we can help you just with that navigation through. So I'm going to recap just very quickly. How do you navigate a difficult conversation? First of all, how do you get around conflict? Do you go through? Do you go around? Or do you wiggle? And how does it make you feel? And actually, this is the biggest one. Where do you want to go? What needs to be achieved from this conversation? Do you need to have a resolution? Do you need to get some accountability? Or do you need to just get some insights and knowledge sharing underway? Either way, I'd love to hear what your results are, and do get in touch. I also have a new program starting up. It's a wonderful Q&A where we get together and we go through ideas about how to work with you. If you would like more information on that, it's called Excel Yourself, and I'd love to hear about you and how we can work together. Okay, take care.